The American, Chapter 7, by Matthew C. McLean. A shorthand missile tale. I paused in the middle of all the bells and chiming of my casino section. If Jasper was giving me the information that the high roller the Corsican had been bothering was here, it was because he wanted something. To respond would be to give him an edge. In an effort to maintain control, I said, "Describe him to me." I could almost hear the grin in Jasper's voice. "Russian. He's ought quite to the entourage with him." I rolled my eyes along with my voice. "The roulette room is filled with Russians." It was true. Roulette and dice were in the same sector, and the Russians seemed to prefer those games over those involving more skill. But Jasper came back with, "He's tall, a good-looking fellow, not the usual fat, sweaty type. He must not smoke. His smile is nearly bleaching at the camera." Almost as an afterthought, Jasper added something actually useful. "And he has a beard." "Thanks," I replied and waved the nearest camera. I knew Jasper would be watching me to see if I took his bait and went to the roulette room. I stayed rooted where I was, not wanting to give him anything and suddenly reluctant to get involved. Then my curiosity moved my feet, pulling me off the gravity of the floor. This was probably my only opportunity to see the high roller. So without a word to Jasper, I stepped away from the bings and the rattles, fairly certain nothing would happen without me for a few minutes. I made my way out of the dimness to the glitzier part of the casino, through a pair of double doors to the main floor that was made up to look like an old Riviera palace. The transformation was convincing enough that I thought maybe it once had been. The dim lights and deep red carpet of the slot section gave way to bright chandeliers and marble floors. Emerging from the cave of slot machines and into the bright light with black tie high rollers and the tourists let in to gawk at them, I headed to the roulette room. Next to private games, the roulette and craps tables had the highest stakes. It could generate a lot of excitement, and not just for the players. A hot streak at a table could light up the entire room, sometimes pulling in people from other sectors. Cheers and groans rippling away from whichever table emanated the heat of a lucky run. Fortunately for me, there wasn't that kind of crowd yet, leaving enough room to make my way across the floor, sticking to the walls and out of patrons' way. I kept my eye out for a bearded Russian with a sizable entourage. It didn't take me long to find him. He stood up straight and had a smile on his face that set him apart from all the other casino-goers, most of whom were crouched over tables and grimacing or looking ecstatic, depending on their fortunes. True to Jasper's word, the beard did have quite the entourage. There was the usual gun mole, a young woman, too thin with sharp cheekbones, but startlingly beautiful nonetheless. She hung on his arm, or around him, casually ordering drinks or hors d'oeuvres she never touched from whatever casino employee came close by. Not far behind was the muscle. One looked to have the shape and intelligence of a brick, and the other an angry whip of a young man, a scar on his cheek marking him from some past dispute. I didn't know the beard, but he fit the description enough that I kept out of his line of sight. I floated close, well enough to confirm that I didn't know him from Adam, which made me wonder how he had known enough to give a description of me. Judging by his movements and treatment by the staff, he was connected enough that he might have come by the information secondhand. What really told me he was important, though, was the pit boss, T-Bolt, floating almost unseen nearby. Efficiently, T-Bolt coordinated everything to make sure the beard and his people were happy. A waiter was nearby, ready to swoop in if any movements indicated a desire for something not present, and 2 security personnel cleared a path through the rabble when the beard got bored and moved to another table. I nodded appreciatively of T-Bolt's efforts. It was a good idea to keep a curtain between the beard security and the tourists. Russian muscle might not control themselves if someone got pushy, and the casino didn't need an incident that might bring cops. Which is why both T-Bolt and me took notice when another entourage appeared, set on a course for the beard and his people. Walking through the outer doors of the roulette hall, wearing a dark suit and a black shirt and a deep purple tie, came Carlu Satre, a man known to everyone in the hall, the casino, and probably even the city. The local mop boss, he was rumored to be a silent partner in the casino, but no one would ever be able to prove that. T-Bolt spoke into his collar microphone, setting the floor abuzz with an activity that was fitting for the arrival of the Shadow King. My own earbud buzzed, summoning me to where I already was. I smiled at my luck as Jasper's possible hold over me evaporated. Detaching from the wall I was leaning against, I watched Satre and his team of heavies move towards the beard, who kept smiling and betting. I wondered at the coincidence of it all. Despite the consistent lack of women around him, producing rumors that Satre preferred the company of men, or boys, depending on who was telling the tale, it would have made more sense for him to be involved in a dispute over a local girl. The same gossipers had it that he was, well, amongst his other grifts, he ran the local brothels. I didn't have a great deal of time to dwell on that, though, as Satre closed the distance to the beard with the pumping steps of his short, thick legs. His gait spoke of intention. I moved to intercept. Thibault did as well. Both of the beard's men saw Satre before their boss and closed ranks in front of him, but the beard gestured them aside so we could greet the shorter man. People around them stopped paying attention to the action on the table and started watching them. The air began to fill with the intensity of a high school brawl. I ignored the stupidity of the herd. I knew full well that people with money could be reduced to a mob just as quickly as all the people they looked down on in their saner, more sober moments. With all of that, though, I didn't expect Satre to pull out a pistol.